Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Family Scuba. This video I'm going to talk about my KISS Sidewinder again. I did a video about 2 or 3 years ago. My experience with it at about 25 hours or so. I've since put on a total of about 300 hours, and I wanted to go over what things I've had to fix on it, what things I've had to upgrade in order to dive it deeper, and my overall experience and how it's held up. I'm hoping this isn't going to be a super long video. I'll show you the components, some of the things that I've had to replace, and kind of go over the types of diving I've been doing, and the kind of how much of a beating it's taken and how it's held up. So with that, I'm going to go get it cleaned up because I did a little bit of diving this weekend in 39-degree water, and the sorb is pretty much been depleted on that. So we'll get that cleaned up, and then I'll show you how it's held up over the years. Stay tuned. All right, guys, I'm back. I got the CCR all taken apart. I have the canisters soaking in some stearamine, getting those all cleaned up. But in front of me here, I have all the main components that I wanted to talk about, some of the things I've replaced, some of the things I've upgraded, some of the things I've had to fix. Starting with the heads here, as you can see, I haven't done anything to them as far as the ADV and the OPV goes. They've worked great for me. I haven't had any issues, with the exception of I had to replace the ADV stem. About 35 hours in, it started leaking diluent into the loop. It was really messing with my buoyancy and lowering my PO2. Fortunately, it was in a shallow dive that I was doing here locally in town, just doing some training, some practice dives, getting some hours in. But it was a pretty noticeable failure when it started happening. And it turned out to be an easy fix. I did find some debris in there, possibly from the manufacturing process or something. I don't really know. And haven't had any issues since. It's the same stem that I replaced back then. I've got about 300 hours on it now. So 260-ish hours or so later, it's still working great. I recently did replace the diaphragm just to replace it. I had no issues with it. It was working fine still. So I have no plans on capping these off. The overpressure valve, I haven't had any issues with that as well. I've never had any water intrusion. People say that they replace it because it's a failure point. Water can get through there. Haven't had any issues. I've used it once in an actual bailout situation from about 100 feet. It's just a lot easier to chicken wing that valve, get that pressure out of there, and not have to worry about opening the mouthpiece or anything like that. I just prefer it. Both of them are very hands-free, and they work well for me. I've never had any issues. I've used this multiple times during subsequent training, and it works for me. It makes sense to have it, and I've had no reason to replace it, so I haven't. That goes for both of them. The computer did fail on me about 125-foot dive on the SS Milwaukee in Lake Michigan. It just shut off. It had a good battery in it. Turned off as soon as I hit the bottom looking at the propellers. It turned out that it had some water intrusion when I sent it over to Tektronix, and for very minimal cost out of pocket for me, they were able to upgrade this to a Petrol 3. Great customer service. They really take care of people. I think that's why Shearwater has such a great reputation. But it did fail on me. Obviously no fault to KISS or the Sidewinder itself. It was most likely because I had a tendency to let this thing hang, and it probably caused an issue with the sealing here. I let Tektronix know, and like I said, they still helped me out, replace it with a Petrol 3. I ended up going with the 4-pin because it was just the easiest, quickest route to get the rebreather back up and running. I had her order the female end of the 4-pin from KISS because it's proprietary to this unit, so I had to get it from them. And then Tektronix sent me the Petrol 3 and it was back up and running within about a week or so. So that's that. Again, no fault to Kiss. That was kind of me. And again, another thing that I did, again, no fault to Kiss as well, is I banged my face into a piece of like a I-beam, a metal I-beam of some kind. I don't recall exactly what the makeup of it was, but it was a support for a boiler in a large ship wreck that I was swimming through, kind of a tight squeeze, and I turned my head in a way that it caused the DSV to get hit, also creating this hole. Took a little chunk out of here. Because of where it sits there, it didn't cause me any issues in the water, and I didn't even notice a problem. I did notice that after the fact when I was doing my checks, and I ended up replacing these hoses and the connectors. Cost me about 60 bucks, I think, for the hoses, or 80, I don't remember. On the Kiss Cargo website, those get replaced. And then I also emailed them about getting these replaced. I ended up buying two just to have a spare. This is pretty thin plastic here, but again, I've never had any issues with it. I think I probably had about 250 hours on it when I broke this, and again, that was because I smacked it pretty good on a piece of metal in a steel wreck. What else have I replaced on this thing? The other problem that I had was early on, about 25 hours in or so, the orifice that comes in the standard ADV, or sorry, MAV, the MAV, that thing clogged on me, and I had to replace it. Then about, I don't know, 30 hours or so after that, it happened again, and I had to replace it. And at that point, I had already done some research on this Fathom needle valve, and they're pretty much impossible to clog, so I just went ahead and replaced it with this. Also, especially since I knew that I was going to end up going to take the advanced Trimix class, so I went ahead and replaced it, and it has been working great customer service over at Fathom. No complaints with them. Along with that, I also replaced the first stage for the Oxygen Edition. I went with the stronger springed Apex non-regulated regulator. I believe the website says this regulator is good for about 600 feet or so, so no need to upgrade after this point. So got that done out of the way, and now I can dive deeper. I have taken the advanced Trimix class since then, so it is serving me well. What else? These I originally mentioned in another video that I thought this was probably aluminum. It is not. It is very strong composite plastic Delrin. It is bomb-proof, to say the least. I am not nice to this thing, as you can see. It's pretty beat up. It gets pushed through some pretty small areas, and it has never failed me. I've never had any issues. The only other thing I wanted to talk about briefly is the O-rings. I did buy a replacement O-ring kit. I think that everyone buys when they buy a new CCR, and I have not had any issues other than my dog eating a couple of them one time when I walked away. Other than that, 300 hours in, and it still has these O-rings on here with no problems. Some people, I've been told, replace them yearly and then kind of recycle the same set back and forth. I have not done that, and I have had zero problems, zero issues. I plan on replacing them all at some point, but 300 hours in, still the original O-rings and no issues whatsoever. I think that's pretty much it. As far as problems, as I said, I just had the stem, the orifice that kept clogging on me, clogged a couple times. Then I just switched over to the Fathom, haven't had any issues. Oh, really briefly, I have not had any problems with this, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I believe I mentioned it in another video as well, the 30-hour video. The inner tube, I hope the camera's catching that here. The inner tube in here is what seals the mouthpiece, what seals the loop through the mouthpiece, I should say. And I take this apart periodically about every, I don't know, 20 hours or so, 25 hours or so. Clean it up. I get debris in there. As I said, I'm not nice to this thing. I go through some pretty nasty stuff. And it does get gritty and a lot harder to manipulate. I like to be able to do this with one hand in case I have to bail out. I did have a bailout situation one time where I used my left hand to close this and my right hand to bring the second stage that was on a necklace up to my face so that I could breathe. So being able to do this with one hand is very important to me. And what I've noticed over time from all of the servicing that I've done to it to keep it running smooth is that that inner tube is getting a lot of grooves in it. It looks worse than it is. You can probably actually see. Let me see. You can see, hopefully you can see the grooves in there. Maybe, maybe not. But I've noticed it. It is never caused me any issues, but I figured I would throw that out there. Maybe somebody can tell me when I should be worried about that, because it hasn't been an issue so far, but it is pretty grooved on that inner drum that rides, you know, on the outside of the outer tube. Other than that, that's it. I do have a few chips on the foam coating on my canisters. I got most of those pretty early on at, I believe, Lower Orange Grove. And they haven't flaked. They haven't chipped any further. It's just they're about, you know, dime-sized chunks missing. But other than that, they've held up pretty well. I was worried that they were going to start flaking or chipping apart, but has not been an issue. That is pretty much the update on the diving, on the rebreather. Long story short, it has served me very well. As some of you that follow this channel know, I have been diving side mount since pretty much open water, getting open water certified, so it was just the natural CCR to buy when I thought about getting a CCR, and it has worked out great for me. Worker breathing is still fantastic. I know there's a lot of people out there that say it's terrible. I have no explanation for that. It works great for me. Hope this helps. If you have any specific questions about it, please let me know in the comments. I do respond when I see them. YouTube has been really weird about sending me notifications. So some of them I've had to go through and check manually, and I've responded like a month later. I feel bad about that, but again, if I don't get the notification, I don't know, but I will respond as soon as I see it. Thanks for watching. Again, I hope this helps. See you on the next one.